Today I wanted to carry on with part 2 of the video I started last week, looking at the positive and negative traits of INFJs. Last week I looked at the positive traits, so this week I'm going to look at the negative traits, as seen in this post that I found. The first negative trait that is mentioned is that INFJs tend to hold back a part of themselves, that we can be secretive. I think that's true. We don't tend to open up and share everything about ourselves with everyone we know. It's something that we will do over time. It's almost a sign that we trust you, if we're able to open up ourselves and be more authentic, be more real with you, to share the sides that we don't share with everybody else. It's not necessarily that we're being secretive, it's just that we need to spend enough time with you to figure out if you're a trustworthy person, if you're someone that we feel comfortable opening ourselves up to. Many of us have probably been hurt by people in the past, when we've been younger and been very FE heavy, wanting to please everybody and be what everybody wants us to be. We probably got hurt a lot. And so as we get older, we then realise that we shouldn't wear our hearts on our sleeves, that we need to hold ourselves back a bit and test people to see, are you worthy of my trust? And if the answer is yes, then we will share ourselves with you. If the answer is no, then you'll only reach a certain level on the surface with us. You'll never get to that deeper part. The next point is that we're often hard to get to know, difficult to understand. That kind of ties in with the previous part. Because we don't share ourselves with people readily, it means that it's difficult to get to know us. There's a massive world underneath what you see by looking at us on the surface. It's like the iceberg model of the conscious and subconscious brain. The conscious brain is the tip of the iceberg that you see. That's the part of ourselves, our personality that we share with other people on a daily basis, that they see and they think explains completely who we are. But there's so much more underneath. That's only the tiny 1 or 2% that we share with people. The other 98 or 99% is underneath the surface, is something that we'll show you when we feel ready, when we decide that we can trust you. So yes, that means we're hard to get to know and we will be difficult to understand because you won't see that side of us, so you won't be able to understand. Sometimes glimpses will pop out and it might be strange, it might not seem normal because you've not seen that side of us before. So it might be like learning to get to know us all over again, but on a deeper level this time. The next point is that we may not be good with money. I'm not quite sure why they've put may not be good with money, because we're very organised. We like organising things. Yes, we're not the most detail-oriented in some areas, but in others we are. Especially with things to do with ourselves, we tend to be quite organised. I know for a fact I am very good with money. I've always been able to save. I've worked self-employed this past year with the whole pandemic, and I've still managed to save some money each month, even though I've not been earning very much at all. So I think it's probably more so if it's a value of ours, if it's something you value and you want to do. I value saving money. I think it's a good quality to have in a person, to be good with money, to make sure that you're not living paycheck to paycheck, that at the end of the month you still have money in your account. I value that, so I'm going to make sure that I do that. And maybe that's the reason why I am slightly better with money. I wouldn't be able to say if other INFJs are not. It's not something I would have associated with our personality because we're good at being organised. But yeah, might be the case for other people, I don't know. The next point is that we're often not good with handling practical day-to-day concerns. Again, that can be, sometimes we can be and sometimes we can't, the same as the previous point. Sometimes we don't like details, they can just get irritating, but other times we're very good with them. I know I find organising things can help de-stress me, so I would be good at handling practical day-to-day concerns. It kind of depends what concerns they are. Trying to make a meal plan for the week, yes, I can be very good at doing that. Writing out all of the money I've earned and spent and sorting out all the bills and doing a bit of accounting, that can sort of depend on my mood. If I'm in a good place, then yeah, I'll be happy to do that, but sometimes, yeah, that can get a bit frustrating and I'd rather do something else. I guess if it's something that we're doing all day, every day, handling tiny weeny little details, then it's probably going to wind us up a bit. We need a bit more connection with other people, we need to be challenged, we need to be learning and growing. So if we're just doing the same thing day in, day out, that's very small, detail-oriented work, then yes, that probably will bug us. But that doesn't mean that we're not good at doing it, it's just that we don't want to do it all the time. The next point is that we have a tendency to believe that we're always right and to dismiss or ignore other people's opinions, even before fully hearing them out. That's not something I found from looking at the INFJ communities online. That's definitely not something that I've noticed at all. That's not something I think I do myself. I like to think of myself as very open-minded. Yes, I have my beliefs and my opinions, what I think is right, what I think is wrong, but I find it really interesting to hear other people's points of view, to hear their side of the story, to hear what they believe and how they came to that belief. Whether I agree with that opinion or not doesn't matter. I just think it's interesting to hear them out and to find out what they believe. I like to get inside their head almost. I find that fascinating. So I'm not going to want to shut down other people just because I don't think that what they believe is right. Because how am I supposed to learn more about them? I find people fascinating. I think that's something that many INFJs do, and just shutting people down when they don't agree with you is not a way that you're going to learn that. That's not something that I would link in with the INFJ personality type. I've seen it linked in with some of the thinkers, but not INFJs before, so I'm intrigued to know if this person has had a bad experience with an INFJ. I know I said that last week with some of the positive points. Maybe they've met an INFJ and that person was very close-minded and did just shut everybody down when they didn't agree with what they thought, but that isn't something that I'd associate with INFJs in general. The next point is that we may be prone to depression. I think to a certain extent intuitives may be a little bit more prone to it because we're less likely to be able to just enjoy where we are in the moment. We're going to be thinking about the future and comparing it and trying to see how things could improve, and yeah, that could lead us to feeling a little bit more depressed, but I don't think there's a personality type that's more prone to depression than any others. You could get someone who's SE dominant be depressed. It doesn't mean that just because we have dominant NI means we're depressed more often. I can see that we may be prone to feeling sad more. That could probably work, seeing as sadness, there's a reason for it, so we can look around in the world and see the suffering and find it difficult to figure out how we can help on a larger scale. That could maybe lead us to feel more sad if we do that, but I wouldn't say we're prone to depression, because if you know what the reason is as to why you're feeling down, then you're not depressed. The whole point of depression is you can look around at your life and not see anything massive that stands out as, oh, that's the reason. It's my job, it's my relationship, it's the amount of money I have, it's my car, it's my house. That would then lead you to be sad, not depressed. So I think that I wouldn't say it's something that you can just tag onto a couple of personalities and say, oh, you're more prone to being depressed. I wouldn't say that was something that you could do unless there was a massive survey that was carried out on 5,000 of each personality types to see out of the 5,000 how many have suffered from depression at some point in their life, how many times has it come up, and then correlate from there. But even then, there's so much else that can be involved in causing depression. It could be loads and loads of different reasons why. It's not as simple as, oh, you're an INFJ, that means you have NI dominance, so you're likely to be more depressed than someone else, or because you have secondary FE. What does that mean? ISFJs are just as likely? Does that mean INTJs are just as likely? Does that mean all intuitive feelers are just intuitives, intuitive judges? Yeah, I wouldn't have put that in there. I don't think that's something you can associate with personality types, because there's so many different areas that can cause depression. It's not as simple as how you see the world. We're all better at dealing with certain things than others. Some people are better at dealing with being in debt all the time than other people. Some people are better at dealing with the stress of having to move house very often or having a really difficult job. We're wired differently, so the same thing, the same experience isn't going to get the same response from us. Someone may find a certain experience really difficult to go through, and someone else may find it really easy because they've gone through something similar 100 times before in their life. That could cause that one person depression, and the other person, it could just be an average day. There's so much more to depression. It's not worth narrowing it down and just labelling INFJs as more prone to depression. I don't think that's fair. The next point is that we intensely dislike criticism and conflict. We tend to internalise conflict and may react to it with heated, explosive anger. Well, yes, we definitely dislike criticism and conflict, but I don't think anybody likes criticism. Some people are okay taking it, but it's more the way it's phrased. I think that's the thing. If someone was constructively criticising me, saying that I think this might help a little bit more, that might be a bit easier to understand or whatever, then I wouldn't have an issue with that. But just, I'm going to criticise you because I have nothing better to do with my life. No, I don't know anybody that would like that. But yeah, that is a bit of a stereotype of FE, that we don't like criticism and conflict. I mean, I don't like conflict, but as I've grown and matured, I'm happy to enter into it if there's a need. If there's a situation that calls on me to stand up for myself or for other people, for whatever reason, then I will do that. When I was younger, yes, I used to hide away a bit more, but as I've matured, my TIs come out a little bit more, so I'm more happy to enter into conflict if there's a reason for it. I won't do it unnecessarily, but I definitely am not afraid to stand up and be assertive. As to the tending to internalise conflict, that's probably a natural initial response for us, that we're just going to hold it in, keep it inside, because we don't want to just cause an unnecessary conflict. If there's a reason to stand up and be assertive, then we will do that. But if it's just people being ridiculous for no reason, then there's no point engaging in that. Then you may as well just keep your opinions to yourself, turn around and walk away, because you don't want to lower yourself to that level. As to that we may react to it with heated, explosive anger, I have never done that myself. I tend to think that INFJs are more along the passive-aggressive side because we don't like conflict. Reacting with anger is going to cause conflict. So being more passive-aggressive is probably a way to say something without confronting someone, and just, someone's not going to just turn around and shout at you if you're saying a little snide remark. It's a bit easier to get away with. That's how I would have thought we'd react to it if we weren't in a very healthy state, or if it wasn't something we could just stand up and have a grown-up conversation about. Again, I can't speak for other INFJs, but I wouldn't have naturally associated explosive anger with INFJs. Doesn't even really link in with the stereotypes of door slamming. That doesn't come with a massive full-blown argument. That's just shut a door, never speak to you again. Even that's not explosive anger. So the stereotypes don't really line up with that statement either. The next point is that we may have a hard time leaving an unhealthy relationship. I know I've sort of spoken about this before, that it can be difficult because we're very good at seeing the potential in other people. We can see areas they can grow, and because we like to always improve ourselves, we're probably going to find areas that we could improve on too to make the relationship better. So we're not going to want to just drop it and leave, or want to keep trying just in case us changing ourselves and growing more means that it becomes a better relationship. It can be difficult to get to a point of, no, this is it, just drop it, leave, walk away, forget about it. We always want to see the best in people. And I think that becomes more difficult the more time you spend in a relationship. If it's just a friendship that you only speak to them once every couple of months, then that's not going to be difficult. But if it's someone that you've dedicated your life to, you've decided you want to be with forever, to then have to turn around and walk away from that can be difficult. Sort of the sunk cost thing. You've invested a lot of time and effort into that relationship, so it's difficult to count all of that as a waste and walk away. It's one of those you need to try and change your mindset into it's not been a waste of time, it's been a learning experience. It's almost been like going to university. It's like a university course on relationships, that you've learned a lot from it. You've learned a lot about yourself, about other people, about what you need in a relationship, what you don't need. It's, I think, easier to leave if you switch your mindset to thinking this is a learning experience. I've learned a lot from it. I haven't wasted time. I've invested in this person, and if at the end of the day they don't want to change, then there's nothing I can do about that. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. I've given them the tools they need to help them to grow and change, but if they don't want to do that, then I need to walk away, because that's what's best for me. I've done my part, I can't do any more. It can be difficult to do, but it is definitely something that as we learn and grow, we have to do with certain people. The next point is that we may be highly protective of ourselves and overly private, only sharing what we want when we want to share it. That kind of links in with the first point, that we're very protective of ourselves, of our own inner world. We don't want to share it with everyone. We don't want to wear our heart on our sleeve, because many of us have experienced being hurt, of sharing that part of ourselves and having people laugh at it or not understand it, not want to take the time to understand it. So yes, as we grow and get older, we do tend to decide that we're going to keep it in, to hold on to it tightly until we find someone that we can trust. I wouldn't say that's a negative thing. Maybe this person that wrote it knew an INFJ and maybe they didn't open up. I don't think it's overly helpful either to be the kind of person that shares everything about yourself straight away. People don't want to know that. It's a natural part of a relationship. It's a natural course that you take of initially just sticking with very generic topics, not going into any depth because you don't know where the other person stands. Over time you get to know each other better and then you start opening up and sharing, but just diving straight in and being incredibly open and vulnerable, that's probably going to scare off most people because we're not used to it. So it's not necessarily a good thing to go out and share everything about yourself straight away. It's good to be protective and private. Yes, we may be a little bit more so than some other types, but we will share that. We will be more open if you take the time to get to know us. It's a trust thing. So if we get to a point where we do share ourselves with you, then it shows that we trust you. The next point is that we can be stubborn. Yes, we can definitely be stubborn, not to the extent of some of the previous posts I've looked at where people have said NI is just incredibly stubborn and once it sees what it wants to do, it will never relent, it will just stick with that one thing. Not as stubborn as that, but I'd say it's more of a TI thing. We're a little stubborn with what we believe is right, our truth. That's not likely to change. I have a very open mind with concepts and hearing other people's beliefs and values. I'm happy to hear them all, but I stay true to my own. Once I know that it's true, nothing's going to change that. When I'm not 100% sure, I will take in what everybody else is saying and throw it against my beliefs to see, does it line up? Does it counteract? Does it actually mean that what I believe is wrong? Is what they believe more? Does that make more sense? But we have some values, some morals that no one's ever going to change. So in that respect, yes, we're stubborn. You're never going to convince me that it's okay to be disrespectful to other people, that it's okay to hurt other people, to abuse them. You're never going to convince me it's okay to hurt someone who's weaker than you, whether that's a child, whether that's someone who's younger than you, older than you. You're never going to tell me that that's okay. That's something, yes, I am very stubborn on. You won't ever convince me to change that belief. But I'm not stubborn in every area. It's just, I think that's the same with every personality type though. They'll have their own beliefs that you're never going to change them on. If they believe that pink's a better colour than green, then that's it. They're never going to change their mind on that. There's no point having an argument. I don't think that's limited just to INFJs or people with NI high up. So I know it seems to be something that people think is associated with NI. It's not. I think the stubbornness comes more from your values and your beliefs, what you hold true. That's where you're going to be more stubborn and firm on what you believe and what you don't. The penultimate point is that we're rarely at complete peace with ourselves. We always doubt that we are living up to our full potential. Now that's actually something that I think is true for INFJs. I know for me, yeah, I always feel like I can improve and grow. I'm never 100% happy with where I am right now. I can be pleased that I've achieved a goal, I've got closer to something I want to do, but my mind is always firing off into, well, what can I do next? What's the next step to take? Where's this going to go? What happens if I only stay where I am now? Am I going to achieve my goals? Do I need to do something different? Do I need to work harder in another area in order to get closer to my goals? So yeah, I'm never completely at peace. There's always things I need to be doing to improve and grow. And as to that we always doubt that we're living up to our full potential, yeah, a lot of us, I'm sure, want to become better people. We want to continually grow. And when we're aware that we could be better, we can see that potential in ourselves. Like I said earlier, we're good at seeing potential in others. We're also good at seeing it in ourselves. If we know we can be better, then we will want to be better. we'll put those high standards on ourselves and we'll push ourselves to achieve it. It's never completely unrealistic. It's always something that we believe we can achieve. But yeah, we are always pushing ourselves to get that bit better than we have right now. Not for anybody else, but for ourselves, because we believe that we can get it, so therefore we should. And the last point is that we're often not good with highly detailed tasks. We will either avoid these tasks or go to other extremes and become so enveloped in detail that we lose sight of the big picture. It's a very specific negative point. I can be really good with highly detailed tasks. I can sit there and I can work really hard and make sure everything is perfect. Make sure that it's done to the highest degree of detail. It's done incredibly well because I take pride in my own abilities. Again, as I was saying earlier, it's something that if that's all we're doing every single day, then yes, we're going to hate doing them. But if we've been outside, we've spoken to other people, we've had a little bit of time to ourselves, then we're going to be okay doing it. As long as it's not going to take up the whole day, as long as we're still able to have our time to ourselves. I think that's what will make or break doing the task. But yeah, if we're not in a good place, we're not in the frame of mind where we want to do the task, then yeah, we will probably avoid them, procrastinate for as long as we possibly can, do everything else besides that task, get completely distracted researching something else, come back and go, oh crike, I completely forgot I'm supposed to do that. Or the last bit is go to the other extreme and become so enveloped in detail that we lose sight of the big picture. I can't say I've ever done that myself. I guess I could see that, either procrastinating or honing into the tiniest little detail, that you forget the whole overall concept, that you forget what it's actually for. You're too busy focused on getting the right font that you forget about when the essay's due, what you're supposed to be writing about. I wouldn't say that was something that we do as we grow and mature. Maybe it's something that would happen to us in school. If we had to write a detailed essay on something, then we'd either procrastinate for ages or start researching and then go off on a massive tangent. I know I'm starting off an essay about, say, history, about World War II, and then start researching it and then going off onto all the different wars, the civil wars, the wars that happened over here, going back in time to looking at the Crusades and why that happened, and then looking into the different religions that were around. And I can go off on a massive tangent and then have to bring myself back round full circle. We're not researching that, we need to look at World War II. I've done that in school, but I definitely haven't done the other extreme of being so focused on the tiny little details. I've always been aware of the big picture. I've always been aware of, I have this essay I need to write 5,000 words and it needs to be done in 2 weeks' time, and here's the question, here's the layout of the paragraphs. I've always known that. Can't say I've ever got too involved in the details that I've forgotten about it. I wouldn't know if that was something other INFJs have struggled with, but yeah, I definitely procrastinate. I know that comes from being a perfectionist, of not even wanting to start because you just don't know how it's going to turn out. And until you can figure out how to make sure that the first step you take is completely perfect in the right direction, the right hardness of placing your foot down, the right shoes, the right weather, until you can know all of that, you don't want to take that step in the first place, which leads to a lot of procrastination. I know that's definitely an area that I struggled with a fair amount in school. I had to knuckle down and write myself out a little calendar of this day you're going to do this essay, that day you're going to do that essay, that day you're going to do some research, then you're going to plan a new essay or revise for an exam or whatever. Once I did that, once I got myself organised, I was fine. So yeah, this last point is something I probably, for myself personally anyway, I'd put more down to primary school, early secondary school, before I started organising myself properly. I'd struggled doing detailed tasks, but as I've got older, I've come to enjoy them a lot more. I like detail, I like administration, I like making sure all the numbers add up in banking, or making sure all the emails are written correctly and proofread so that there's no grammatical errors. I enjoy that sort of thing. Whether that's the same for other INFJs, I don't know, but yeah, I quite like detailed tasks. But yeah, anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. Have a little look into some of the negative traits that were mentioned. Most of them are not something that I'd naturally want to associate with INFJs, or they're far too general for that. But it's interesting to see what someone else's perspective is of INFJs. I find it interesting. Because being one myself, I have one worldview, so it's nice to see someone that's not my type, who doesn't know me personally, who maybe doesn't know much about INFJs. It's almost more interesting to find out what someone who may have only had very limited contact with an INFJ, what they think about us. Just to see if you go along and say to someone, "Hi, I'm an INFJ," what potential stereotypes might they have of you? What potential preconceived ideas may they have? But yeah, as always, thank you for your time.